In this video, we are going to create our news display page.
Alright, cool.
We finished up the admin screen. We have an admin page, which will allow us to add items, edit items, and delete items from the news section. So now what we need to do is to go into the actual news page itself, add the necessary PHP code to allow it to load this information from the database. Let's load up the old news page. So we'll go to our server and load news.html. So this is what the news page currently looks like. We have our records, but of course these are in static HTML, meaning this is the old information.
Right.
We need to go in and add the necessary PHP to load these, or load the information from the database into the news page. So let's get started. We'll load up GoLive, and we can actually close out the news admin page. Our work on that is done. So now we want to switch our focus to news.html. Let's load that in, and then immediately do a save as on it, and call it news.php. So this will be our dynamic version of the news system. Now, we need to set it up so that each of these news entries are loaded from the database. And the first thing I'll do is take all except one and delete them out. Because the idea is to have a loop that will run based on information in the database, so we don't need all these extra ones sitting out in the way. So we'll just delete all except one of these. So now if we jump into source, we can see that a news item is comprised of a div with a class surrounding the header, then another one around the headline, and finally the news itself within a paragraph tag. So that will comprise one single news item. What we want to do is add the necessary PHP code around this news item to run it through a loop and show the information from the database. So let's open a PHP tag. We'll close that one right before the news block, and then we'll reopen one after the news block. This will be used to finish off the control syntax for the loop. So let's get started with that loop. What is going to drive the loop? Well, the results from a database query. Now, before we can run a query, we need to make sure that we connect to the database. That'll bring us back to our include for that db.php database script. I'm going to put that at the very top of the news.php script. So we'll open up a PHP tag and say includes /db.php, like such. Now with the database script included, we can run our query. So we'll say $query is going to be select. Now instead of doing a select star where we grab all fields, I want to specify the 3 fields that we will be using, and in that way get away from accident or grabbing all the information that we don't need. All we need here is header, headline, and news. So we'll specify those fields. So select header, headline, and news from the news table. Now, we want to make sure that since this is the display page, that it respects our active field and only displays articles that are active.
Right.
So we will say where active is 1. And then the final thing we need to do is make it display and order our records such that the newest news post appears at the top. So we will say order by auto ID descending. So the largest auto ID first, or the latest news item. So that's our query. Now let's run that and store it in $result. So result equals MySQL query, feed it $query, and our database link, like such. And immediately after that, I'm going to turn around and start our loop.
Okay.
So we'll say while $row is equal to MySQL fetch associative for $result begin looping. And then we'll use our final PHP tag to end off the control structure for this loop. So with that now, let's save out our news script and see what we have so far. So here we have news.html. Let's change that to news.php. Oh, and check that out. Syntax error. Line 106. Let's take a look at that. So here we have 106, and you can see we missed a parenthesis.
I see.
So that'll do it. So refresh, and there we go. The script is running, and we have a set of news posts.
Cool.
And now you can see that we haven't filled in any information from the database into the actual areas of the post itself, so it's the same one duplicated over. So let's take a look at filling out the necessary information in each of those. Since we're looping through and storing all this result in $row each time, we will use that to fill in the data here. So we'll open a PHP tag for echoing an expression and simply place $row, and then this will be the header, so $row key header, like such. And let's check that. So there we go. There's the actual headers that were stored in the database. So it's starting to come together.
Yeah.
Now we just need to put in the last two pieces of information: the headline and the news. And scroll over, news, save, and refresh. And there we go, the actual information from the database. Now, of course, this is all test information, so it's line by line.
It's what we had to enter in like the previous lessons and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's actually take one or two of the posts from the real version of this page and put them into place and see what a full news post would look like. So I'm going to open a third tab, put in news.html so we can gain access to some of our old posts. Starting with the oldest first, because again it's going to be ordering from the oldest last. So let's enter some new posts. And give the headline and the news.
Alrighty.
And we want to make sure that this is active. Submit that. And take a look at the PHP version of our page.
And look at that, right at the top.
So there we go. Edible logs, the headline, and the news post.
That's just a funny sentence, I'm sorry.
I'm going to throw in a second one just so we can verify the spacing on all of these.
Okay.
And that'll probably be all the ones we enter on this video itself. Otherwise, things could get a little bit drawn out if we sit here and just
copy every single one of these. Yeah, I gotcha. And submit. And
refresh.
And look at that.
So there we go.
There you go. Cool.
Now, I'm a little bit curious as to the spacing. Make sure that we have the exact same spacing just so we have duplicated the same results throughout. And that seems to actually work quite well.
Yeah, it does.
So with that, we have the news page enhanced within the proper PHP to load news articles out of a database.
Right.
So with that, that's all we wanted to cover in this lesson. We simply took a look at starting with the HTML version of the news page, then going in and adding the necessary code around each of the articles so that articles are loaded from the database. So with that, that is going to wrap up this lesson.